All right, I think we can get started here. Welcome to the Gnosis AI call, everyone. We get together once a month, usually on the Gnosis Chain Discord to have this call, but we recently changed up our setup with StreamYard, so we're live on the Gnosis Chain Twitter account and the Gnosis Chain YouTube account, along with Discord. So much better this time around with StreamYard. Today we have Nevermind. Super excited to have them. We have Don from the team. And just a quick introduction about what Nevermind it is. It's a decentralized AI payments protocol creating infrastructure for AI commerce, helping AI builders accept payments and manage usage of their apps, agents, and VPPs. So I'm going to hand it over to Don. Don's going to give us a quick demo about what they're building, and then we'll do a AMA. I'm sure I'll have questions for Don, but people watching also have questions. We'll field them from all the respective platforms that we're streaming on. So without further ado, hand it over to you, Don. Thanks so much for making the time, and excited to have you.
Thanks, John. I'm excited to be here. Yeah, so I was asked to present a little bit about Nevermind, what we're working on. So I'm going to present something quite simple in its functionality, but it's got a lot of moving pieces going on in the background. But before that, just I guess provide a little bit more background for what we're working on. As John mentioned, we're hyper focused on AI payments. So what's abundantly clear to us at Nevermind is that AI agents in particular need their own payments protocol in order to do a couple of things. Number one is really to realize the true benefit of decentralized AI. And then also, I think equally important is in order to scale AI to AI interactions in something that John alluded to, we're calling it AI commerce. And from our perspective, AI commerce is significantly different from the existing infrastructure for e-commerce. In fact, we kind of look at this, we're looking back in history at the early days of the internet, mid 90s. What we see is a bunch of builders right now that are akin to kind of the hobbyists that exist back then, that are building these agents. And when they get to a productive state, they're trying to capture some of that productivity by monetizing these agents. And what we have realized in talking to, reaching out to over 100 organizations and individuals is that there's a real issue in creating and leveraging a means to properly get these AI agents paid. So what we see right now is, in effect, a bunch of bespoke individual solutions that are created that don't integrate very well, and definitely aren't going to scale that well. And so, we've made it sort of our mission to address these problems. Again, going back to this sort of mid 90s historical perspective, when all you really had back then, the only people that were really transacting online were the hardcore hobbyists. It wasn't until the emergence of a solution like PayPal that e-commerce really started to scale. And we see ourselves as being the PayPal of AI, and really becoming that engine for powering AI commerce. In our future, we envision, the creation and deployment and manifestation of trillions of agents that are interacting with one another, silicon to silicon based agents, and as well as interacting with the carbon-based agents ourselves. And what we fundamentally believe is that needs its own protocol. So that's what we're building. I think we've got strong empirical evidence to back up what we're doing. We're working with Olas. We're working with Polywrap. We're working with Flock. We're actually also working with on the Web 2 side, an organization called Super Agent. They're an AI agent framework provider. They're YC backed. They were just in the most recent Y Combinator cohort. They've got 7,000 plus users. So we're the payment module within that framework. And we've got a number of other partnerships that are already established that we still have yet to announce. So I'm not gonna unveil those yet. But yeah, we're doing some cool stuff. So what I want to show today is something that we actually launched last week, and it's just a simplification of how you can start to interact with these agents. But really what we have going on behind the scenes is a lot of dynamic infrastructure. So what I'm going to show here is basically an authentication mechanism where you can come in and you can log in a number of different ways. We've gone quite far into the account abstraction or intents-based architecture paradigm. One of the things that we have really, come to realize working with AI devs is that a lot of them, especially in the Web 2 space, they really have a distaste for crypto. And so what we have really made a concerned effort to do is abstract away a lot of that. So with Nevermind, you can do things like you can log in with your socials. We've got gasless payments. We've even gone so far as to enable payment in fiat for what we're doing in order to actually engage with these agents. Now, behind the scenes, what we're manifesting is a set of credits that give the user that has obtained the rights to those credits through payment the ability to then subsequently interact with any specific agent that's been bundled to that set of credits. We do that through a solution that we call smart subscriptions. It gives a builder the ability to set the parameters for access, in particular, the price to access, the time period that a user will have access for, and or the number of requests any given user can make to a specific AI agent. Happy to get into more of the details around how this credit system works, should anybody have any questions, but I'll just very simply go through the demo. What we have here in the demo, it's a test environment. It's actually just a tutorial in GitHub that anybody can access with the URL. Happy to share that. It gives you the ability to log in. If you don't have credits to actually purchase those credits, unfortunately, I'm already logged in and I've purchased the credits, so I can't show you the purchase flow. But I'll show you the redemption piece and show you how that works and how you can actually see the credits be redeemed as you're using the application. So as you can see right now, I can't actually interact with the agent. It's a very this particular instantiation is just a very basic, I think, common interface at this point. Your regular AI chat interface. What we have behind the scenes is an LLM service coupled with an embedding service that has a set of embeddings. And I'll kind of show you some of the dynamics that are at play here when it comes to a user making requests to a particular agent, and then how the redemptions are made, whether or not that there's an embedding that exists for that answer already, or whether or not the model has to go and source a new response. So I'll just log in here. So as you can see from this login interface, you have the choice as a user. You can log in with your socials, with Google, with GitHub, Facebook, what have you, or you can choose to log in with your wallet. I'm going to log in with my socials. So it's just authenticating and rerouting me back to the application. And so as you can see here, I've already logged in before and I've made a purchase on these credits. And so unfortunately, I'm not going to, I can see if I can churn through these credits and then top up. If I, now you can see that I can actually start to interface. I'm authenticated. The application sees that I have the proper credits to engage with this particular AI agent. So now I can start prompting questions to the agent. And what you'll start to see based on the responses is, and it's a little bit latent, but you'll start to see the credits begin to be redeemed. Oops. It would help if I properly formatted the questions, but in this case, you can see that it was 18 credits before, now it's 16. There's a bit of latency on the first question, but it was 1 credit redeemed for each of those questions. Maybe I'll do this. Let's see what kind of response we get here, whether it knows who I am. And it doesn't, but you can see, I think the more important piece here is that the first 2 responses actually came, they were canned, they were embedded. And so the model can very easily source those responses. In the case of this last question, it's got clearly no idea who I am. So it actually had to go back and think about the response, infer something, and that has a greater cost to it. And so it associates to a greater redemption charge. Now, we are enabling the dynamic that dynamic charge setting in the back end. So a builder can actually set the min and max thresholds for this type of thing. And it can take in, webhooks from a specific model, et cetera, in order to account for that redemption dynamically, or in a variable capacity. What's nice about this is that, you can start to manage, quantify, and more importantly, really move towards pricing and charging for the usage of your models in a very accurate way. Moving beyond just sort of the token redemption capabilities that are embedded into, say, OpenAI natively, and actually start to charge for these credits. So in this case, you can see I actually, if I could show you, I paid 1 USDC for access to, in this case, for this particular model or this particular agent, 50 credits. And I've gone through, 37 of those credits so far. But yeah, what you can also get a sort of sense of is the dynamic nature of the prompts, along with the variable responses and the accordingly variable redemption criteria on the credits themselves. So now you can handle a variable user base, from simple users all the way up to power users, and begin to really enable your model to manifest its true value based on that type of interactivity. we're doing this with Olas. We're doing it with our other partners as well that I mentioned earlier. So yeah, that's the demo that we wanted to show. If you're building AI agents, perhaps you see some of the I think relevance of this type of solution. Happy to have a conversation with you. Happy to demo, what we're doing with Olas. So it's a bit more intricate, using the SDK as opposed to this user interface and the registration flow that we have. But doing some slick stuff with polywrap, et cetera, as well. So that's it, John.
Cool, super interesting, Don. I think we'll ask the community here if they have any questions. So if you're on YouTube watching this, you can ask in the chat, and then we'll read it out for you. Same for Discord. To kick it off, I just have some questions. So
Sure.
you mentioned that there's a lot of skepticism about crypto from the Web 2 world. I've also heard about that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone is basically skeptical of crypto. Crypto has a cultural problem, which is ours to solve, right? Through building like things that actually are useful and that prove their value. So, I mean, you're kind of like preaching to the crowd, to the crowd
The
here, or whatever.
choir. Yeah.
The choir. I mean, I know why agents need smart accounts, and why they need a safe to transact. But what do you say to like the Web 2 world? Why do agents need to rely on payment protocols like Nevermind?
Yeah. So, I mean, as obtuse as it probably sounds to you and I mean, the very rudimentary argument is that AI agents aren't going to have bank accounts, right? Can't pass KYC, right? So, if you believe in a world where they can transact, question becomes how do they transact without the existing contemporary rails and mechanisms that enable transactions. And so that's a very baseline argument. Where we see also conversion is in what these builders are having to go through right now in order to try to monetize their AIs, right? A lot of builders, especially those that skew more towards kind of the limited capability, they're not necessarily engineers or computer scientists or your quote unquote traditional developer. But this tooling gives them the opportunity to through instruction sets or maybe a little bit of fine tuning or whatever, create a pretty relevant, productive model and corresponding like GPT or something. What we see there is their outlet or solution for payments is Stripe. Stripe was set up to sell like t-shirts on the internet, It's a very static asset. It doesn't change. There's no variability in the request versus the response, right? The product is singular. So, the example I give, and I'm trying to demonstrate it within this application, but let's say, John, you and I are interfacing discreetly, independently with a common AI agent, right? And I'm a simple user and you're a power user. And I prompt it with, who is Elvis Presley? And it's like, boom, here's the canned response. That was super simple. I'm going to charge you 1 credit for that, right? Because I'm using an embedding even. I'm not even going back to the model to source the response. Versus you, who's a power user, and you ask, who's Don Gossing? Because you want to find out about him. And you got to go in, the model actually has to do some search, or perhaps your prompt is multimodal in nature and you want text and images as a response. So our two requests, even though we're hitting the same model, it's orchestrating a different backend effectively to respond to you as opposed to respond to me. The charge is incremental based on the difficulty and the required model that gets invoked for that particular inference in response to the prompt, right? So what you have is a dynamic interaction between myself and the agent and you and the agent that leads to a variable solution response from the agent itself, and that variability should invoke a variable pricing structure. And that's not something that Stripe can handle, right? So there's, like I mentioned before, there's a bunch of sort of like cottage industry bespoke solutions that are developing out around this. Those that are using traditional Web 2, like multi-tenanted environments and stuff like that, I mean, you and I both know that's not going to scale, especially to the type of capacity that we need for, let's say, an environment with trillions of these agents interacting with one another. So just at the baseline level, if you have a rather rudimentary yet kind of sophisticated AI agent or GPT, you really quickly start to hit this wall where existing payment systems just fall short and you can't use them. They won't scale. They don't handle the request basis of the requests of your users, etc. And so these builders are looking for alternatives. So that's another driver over to the proverbial dark side of crypto.
Yeah, good way to pill people.
Yeah, exactly. You want to get paid? Use this. I mean, look, and then there's the other baseline of Stripe charges 2.9% plus 32% per transaction, right? So when we get into when you get into a micro transactional scenario for something that costs cents on the dollar, right? And then you've got a markup of an order of magnitude more in cost just for that specific transaction, it's like there's no way you're going to use that utility. It just doesn't make financial sense. So that's the other driver.
Totally, yeah. I mean, it's ripe for disruption, and a great product market fit for for crypto. So when 100%. You onboard these teams from Web 2 and you direct them over to your GitHub, to what extent are you abstracting away all of the complexities of like operating with a safe and getting set up and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I mean, to the extent that there is some integration with a proxy and stuff like that, but from a builder's point of view and from like a framework provider with Super Agent, there's a bit of complexity, but the user of the agents that are being developed with those frameworks, it's gone, right? It feels natural. There's no pop-ups because it's gasless and all that stuff. And that's really what we're going for. We want to help the builders generate adoption from their users. So we want to limit the impact that crypto would traditionally have on that interfacing so that their users, they don't even know if you log in with your socials, you don't even know you have a wallet behind the scenes. You do if you go into your profile, you'll see, you'll see the wallet, but yeah, unless you have the wherewithal, you don't actually know these things.
And you said that you can pay with fiat. So then is that swapped to crypto on the back end?
And so right now it's just as a builder, you would sync up your existing, bank account with the fiat payment piece. But what you're paying for in fiat are these credits. What you're paying for in crypto are these credits. The credits themselves are NFTs. And then we imbue those NFTs with all these access conditions. Yep.
Super cool.
Thanks.
Let's just quickly back up.
Yep.
Just for people who may not be aware of like what an agent is, can you describe? Because everyone's familiar with AI at this point and LLMs and the Chat GPT and all that good stuff. But like, what is an agent, and what makes it a innovation, or what makes it so special?
So, I mean, you and I are agents in a system, depending on what the system is. Like in financial system, we are agents that buy and sell stuff. But an AI agent is just kind of a digital abstraction of that function. And then you and I are autonomous in nature. What you have now are non-autonomous AI agents where, the carbon-based agent sits behind the silicon-based one and pulls the strings and tells it what to do. We're seeing the emergence of more semi-autonomous agents where tasks are set and given to an agent, and it goes out and or goals or whatever, and the agent goes out and formulates responses in an autonomous fashion, but there's still that interaction. There are some nascent autonomous implementations, but we haven't, I don't think, hit full autonomous nature of these agents. But really, what we're talking about varying degrees of autonomy, and then a digital instantiation of an agent that can perform some function and provide in some sort of productive response. Yeah.
Yeah, currently over 50% of all safe transactions on Gnosis chain are executed by autonomous AI agents.
Yeah.
And so that's clearly where the hockey puck is going. What are you seeing in the near future? Do you think that agents will be the primary users of blockchain networks and protocols, and where do you see the agent to agent economy going?
So, yeah, I mean, without becoming too esoteric and then taking up the next 5 hours talking about this stuff, I think the primary consumer of digital resources in the not too distant future are going to be these trillions of new AI agents that are going to emerge. As I'll be a bit provocative, but I think the GDP of the human race will pale in comparison to that of AI agents. So I think, what Olas is doing in particular, like they're at the bleeding edge, leading the charge on the development of these agents and correspondingly the ecosystems that they're going to coexist within. So yeah, I think I'm quite optimistic about the future on the agent side of things. I don't see, there's an argument out there. There's sort of I won't say they're diametrically opposed views, but there's sort of kind of a binary argument that's going on. Either there's going to be, one or maybe a handful of these super AGI agents that are, monopolized by one or a handful of companies, right? Alternatively, it's like the Mixtral style. There's trillions of agents that collaborate to, perform certain functions and create different general intelligences, etc. I skew more towards that latter view as opposed to the former. I'm a fan of entropy, and that just suits my predilection. So I think that's the way that things will head. And so, yeah, I'm very bullish on the work that Olas is doing. I mean, that's why that's why we're working together. And yeah, I think from a decentralized point of view, anybody that's sort of in this space at this intersection between AI and Web3 probably sees the world in a similar hue.
Yeah, I mean, I totally share your convictions and your outlook. And in terms of the way that Nevermind is like governed, so obviously there's all that drama with OpenAI. There's a lot of tension between, um, building in a closed manner versus an open manner, and there's a clear need, at least from the way that I see it, with my head down in the sand in the Web3 world. So maybe I don't have a great 360 view, but seems like there's a real need for improved coordination and governance, shared ownership of these AI agents and like the whole tech stack that's creating it. So
Yeah.
How does Nevermind approach governance of what you're building?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're open source through and through. I don't know how broadly this will be broadcasted, but like, I'm not a big fan of copyright and IP. I think it's like a legacy mechanism that's required because of our limitations and how, in particular, we manage attribution. So I think blockchains in particular are a very elegant solution to the provenance and attribution problem. So we can correct or augment the existing limitations of current digital rights management systems with this type of tech, and that has a direct correlation to how these AIs are going to interact and what they're going to own and control and stuff like that, right? So from that point of view, I mean, right now we're just a single company building this stuff out. There's machinations to make this more ecosystem friendly. Read into that however you want to read into it. But if you're from the Web3 side, you should understand where we're heading in all of this. But yeah, getting to a much more decentralized, distributed ownership structure, etc. And really enabling this payments protocol to take flight and get adopted, etc. And I think from our point of view, within the confines of this decentralization argument for AI, the payments piece is a very critical component to decentralization. From our perspective, we look at if we run into a scenario where an OpenAI, Microsoft, or a Google, or just a handful of these large tech companies monopolize the means of payment and transaction between these agents, then the question becomes, how relevant is the decentralization of the rest of that agent, right? If Google can basically turn an agent off with the flick of a switch at its choosing and deplatform that agent, it might as well not exist, right? So the payments piece is a critical choke point in the decentralization of AI, in our opinion.
Yeah, to me, that's the easiest way to kind of, excuse me, to pill someone on someone who's like very cryptical, or someone who's very skeptical of crypto. Do you want to live in a world where Fang controls all these AI agents and
Nope.
yeah, I mean, it seems kind of existential. So
Yeah, it is. A lot of it is existential. We gotta, we gotta be pretty proactive in how we go about this stuff, I think, and provide um, at least a comparable solution. It doesn't have to be um, like for like, but it's got to be at least comparable in what we're offering. Yeah.
yeah, and I think we're in a really interesting moment where smaller teams, more like kind of boutique teams, have the ability to make a huge impact on the future direction of where this is all going.
It's ironic, right? That like I I don't want to be hyperbolic. I'm not gonna like it's not like the downfall of these big tech organizations, but the challenge to these big tech organizations that have hundreds of thousands of people working in and around them is that the same thing that they're focused on, these AIs are actually going to enable much smaller teams to compete, right? So it's quite ironic that
Yeah,
that's the state that we're in.
for sure. Well,
Yeah.
Don, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it. We recorded this call, so we'll pass it off to you. And
Awesome.
yeah, thanks so much. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you next month for the next Gnosis AI call, and we'll see you on Chain. Take care.
Thanks all.